What
happened
in
qualifying
for
the
Australian Prix?
What an alarm to set to then watch a Williams and a Racing Bull go faster than your favourite team. Tommy, how are you feeling, sir? I bet you're feeling quite good considering Max Verstappen was supposed to go out in Q1.
Yes, as we learnt from our predictions of putting him first in the championship, Red Bull have finished and they were going to be nowhere, and I think Verstappen was going to finish like 9th in the championship according to most people, but he was there, although looking very dominant from one team, which we'll get into.
We will. Let's get into Q1 first, though, where the 5 drivers out were Antonelli, Hulkenberg, Lawson, Ocon and Behrman. Now, that is a fruity Q1 exit group there. We'll begin with a question from P1 Patreon member Lozzie Dog. Did Red Bull hire the wrong driver? I'm not going to categorically say yes or no on this one because it's the first qualifying session of the year, but that's now 4 drivers that have gone into that second seat and struggled immensely. Now, of course, Lawson is in his first race with Red Bull, so perhaps he'll build, perhaps he'll learn. But the thing is, Lawson, again, it was a prospective talent last year, stepped in, did a decent job up against Tsunoda, and he comes into this and he's knocked out in Q1. Like, Red Bull, what are you doing with that car? Like, what is Max Verstappen's driving style? It's ridiculous.
It's a common trend. It's happened with 4 drivers now, with 4 very different kind of trajectories and experience and things like that. So it can't just be a coincidence. It's clear that there's something so difficult to drive with that car because it's happening to everyone now. And it is just the way Red Bull go about their racing. The car is all set up to Max, of getting the maximum out of it for him to win the Drivers' Championship. And that's just how they're going racing. Yeah,
we're not going to be too harsh on Lawson. Let's see how he gets on in the first few races. But it's not looking great. The Pain Train 07 comes in with, will Helmut Marko ever learn to shut his mouth? Wow, that is straight to the point. Of course, this is referencing Helmut Marko saying that Bortoleto is a B-tier driver and that Jack Doohan is a C-tier driver. And yet his A-tier driver was knocked out in Q1, and Antonelli was also seen as an A-tier driver. We'll get onto him. But yeah, Helmut Marko does not mince his words at all. He has no filter whatsoever. I love the fact that Bortoleto clapped back a little bit and said that something around that the drivers just seem to fail when they go into Red Bull. But yeah, exactly. And yeah, Bortoleto did a great job. Doohan, I would say, did a pretty great job. It's something that we shouldn't always think that Helmut Marko knows everything.
Yeah, it's come to bite him, that comment, because Bortoleto was fantastic and Doohan as well. You know, both of them put in great performances. A very kind of mixed bag from the rookies this year so far with that first session.
So, of course, let's now just quickly touch upon Antonelli being knocked out. He, of course, broke something on the car, I believe, after going wide, but still knocked out in Q1. Not the best, considering a certain someone on this podcast predicted that he would outqualify George Russell. And then Behrman, who I have clearly put one of the most almighty jinxes on possible for the first round of the season, after naming him my biggest good surprise of the entire year, with the fact that he beached it in FP3 immediately after going out, and then his car was broken in Q1. So Behrman has had quite possibly the worst start to his Haas career.
Yeah, poor start for Behrman. A mix of kind of, well, mainly errors, but then the bad luck as well with the gearbox. But if I must talk about Antonelli, shocking start for him. It is a difficult track to sort of go into where mistakes are punished, and he is absolutely kind of doing what I expected of him, overdriving the car, but maybe around a track like Albert Park, that's not the way to go. You know, if it's Bahrain or something where you can because he showed in FP3. I know it's only FP3, but he did a pretty decent time. I think it was up in 5th.
Here we go. Tommy rolling out the FP3 times. He's got it in him. This is like stage 2.
Because Matt's never overreacted for free practice.
I'm emotionally vulnerable. That was a low blow. That was a real low blow. That's ridiculous from you.
Anyway, let's hurry up and get to Ferrari.
Okay, let's go to Q2. The 5 drivers out were Hadjar, Alonso, Stroll, Doohan and Bortoleto. The question comes in from P1 Patreon member Sophie. Does Bortoleto deserve a better car? He mastered that green wheelie bin beautifully, did Bortoleto. Out-qualifying Hulkenberg is no mean feat, it has to be said. So big shout out to Bortoleto for that. Does he deserve a better car? Let's just wait and see, guys. I know we're all very excited to come to conclusions after the first qualifying session of the year, but yeah, he does. Put him in the Red Bull.
It was a brilliant performance. Yeah, I think I'm very surprised at the comments of Helmut Marko and how much underplayed Bortoleto's been, because he did win the F2 title as a rookie, and that's no mean feat. He's done a very, very good job, and for whatever reason, didn't seem to have much hype around him. He was a McLaren junior, and we know that McLaren know a thing or two about good drivers. Done a very, very solid job so far, but let's wait and see if he can continue it for the rest of the year.
Q3, and the top 10 was Norris, Piastri, Verstappen, Russell, Tsunoda, Albon, Leclerc, Hamilton, Gasly, Sainz. At Ross Bella 16, is the championship already over? It's looking ominous from a dry qualifying perspective. McLaren are miles ahead. I'm going to say it. They are miles ahead in the dry. That we saw that the way they pieced together that last sector was unbelievable. Now, whether it is just the fact that we had quite high temperatures and some of the teams struggled in that last sector, Ferrari and McLaren didn't, that might well have been the difference, right? So, because it was a marked difference in that last sector between McLaren and everybody else. But then again, this is the first race of the season. Teams like Ferrari, they've come with a whole brand new car, which might be a question mark we ask in the middle of the season of, did you really need to change a lot of things going into this year? Because then you have to learn this new package. Do you have enough time to learn the new package and then win races and win the championship and then go into 2026 with new regulations? Sorry, I lost my mind a little bit there. But it is looking very good for McLaren. If you're a McLaren fan, for sure, they are the favourites and they have delivered. But it did take them the final lap to do it.
It's going to be a case of, can McLaren deliver under the pressure of having comfortably the best car? Particularly at the start of the year. I don't think, they've both been underplaying it about how quick their car is. They look very, very, very quick, very ominous with how quick they were in that final sector. Because my word, I remember thinking after that second run, going, no way, are we actually going to get McLaren? It looked like they were going to be 4th and 10th. Both.
They were.
Oscar made a mistake.
They were.
They need to not make as many mistakes. And do they work together? How are they going to do it with Max behind?
Question from P1 Patreon member Alan Enderpay: will McLaren use papaya rules to try to win against Max? No. This is the dilemma at McLaren. Papaya rules, and Zach Brown has already been asked about this, is essentially race hard, but respect your teammate and give them a bit of room. That is the greyest area I've ever seen. If Oscar Piastri gets a sniff on lap 1, he is taking it, and he does not care because he wants to win the World Championship. So for me, going into tomorrow, slippery conditions are what is expected. Some people have been throwing it's going to be a wet to dry race. I mean, sign me up if that's the case. But for me, if that is the case, Max is the favourite.
That's going to be a battle between the two McLarens of basically stamping their authority of who is going to be the number one going into this year. So that's a huge thing. Oscar's going to want to win his home race as well. There's no way Oscar Piastri is not going for it on that first lap. And yeah, Max as well, even though he's so far off those McLarens in the dry conditions, we know how good he is in the wet. And he's got the luxury of not, the luxury of his teammate being in 18th and completely out the way, and he can just focus on his own own race.
I don't think that's a luxury, as much as you try and pay.
It might be if Lawson's getting lapped on lap 2 and he blocks the team McLaren.
Wow, lap 2 is crazy from you. P1 Patreon member Tim Tomato 08. What happened with Ferrari? Big wet setup. One of the biggest wet setups you've ever seen on a car. That's why they're overheating. They want to have that good tyre temperature for tomorrow. So I think Fred's cooking here. 7th and 8th, that's where you want to be. Top 6 are all going to be
Get the slipstream from Albon. Off. We know he's quick on the straights.
Yeah, for sure. Albon
Big
will lead us to victory.
Right?
Yeah, that's what I expected to be talking about, was a Williams and a Racing Bull being ahead of both Ferraris. Charles, I think, actually abandoned his last lap as well, which doesn't help things by any stretch of the imagination. And for them to be that far back when I am still convinced that Lando and Oscar held back slightly to make sure they got in a good lap is quite frankly mortifying. So what happened with Ferrari is that we build from here. They created a whole new car, and they clearly don't know how to make it work in the final sector without the tyres overheating. Although it was an excessively hot day. Give me 15-degree temperatures, Ferrari are back. Thank you.
It's too early to say, but I will say it anyway and do the knee-jerk reaction of, I told you so, why have they got a new car? They're going to focus on 2026. Ferrari in the bin, P4 in the constructors. What else to be said?
Wow, way to beat a man when he's down. And not in a good... Anyway. Next question from P1 Patreon member Chillar. When will Yuki get the respect he deserves for a Red Bull seat? Or is he better off without one? Yuki Tsunoda, P5. Both himself and Alex Albon. Wow. Phenomenal performances. Beating their respective teammates quite comprehensively. And even, that goes for even Carlos Sainz down in 10th, sadly, for him. But back to Yuki. We kind of say, I don't think he wants it. Well, he might want it because there is that allure of, the Red Bull seat, this is what I've been working for the whole time. But it just puts him in a situation where Red Bull shouldn't be his only option moving forward. He's continuously improving season on season by the looks of things. Hopefully he puts in another decent 2025 campaign. But yeah, he's kind of filling up his CV ready for 2-3 years' time, maybe, when seats start to become available again. But yeah, what a performance from Yuki. You've
got to say that if he keeps doing performances like that throughout the year, people will take note from the other teams of going, well, this is a guy that, we should be signing. But the problem is, you've got to think that so many of the teams made their kind of moves and locked in for the kind of 2026 regulations. So it kind of is probably all going to come down to whether Lawrence Stroll kicks out his own son, and the Honda deal works with Aston Martin, and then Yuki Tsunoda in the Adrian Newey car alongside Fernando Alonso dominates the championship, and they both win every single race.
Next question, P1 Patreon member Luca Cuzzy. Are Williams a genuine midfield team now, or are they just good at high-speed circuits? The James Vowles master plan is unfolding before our very eyes. He's ripped up everything, all the old rubbish, putting in new stuff. He said it's a 5-year plan or however many years he said. And the Williams is good around circuits. Because you can't call Australia similar to Monza. I know that, of course, we have a lot of DRS. I think it's 4 DRS zones around here. It is quite quick. But there are still some very fast corners that require a lot of downforce as well. That fast left-right in the middle sector, for example. So it's not just a go in a straight line, heavy brake, we're all good. But it's a very promising start for Williams.
It's a very, very, very promising start for Williams. For them to be comfortably kind of into that Q3 session. And then Albon did an unbelievable job to be P6. Carlos going to be disappointed to be down in P10 based on how he's kind of looked in that car. But yeah, great job from Williams. They can be really happy. And maybe Carlos moving to Williams might just be racing the Ferraris after all, and he can wave to his former team as he flies past him in the DRS zone.
So big shout out to Albon. That was a phenomenal performance from him, considering the expectation coming into this year. Albon's finally got a teammate that's decent. We ourselves, both of us, predicted Sainz to do better across the season, and Albon has clapped back and put in a P6 performance. So only positive sentiments and huge congrats to Albon for that performance. That sums it up. We're done. Qualifying done and dusted. So anyway, thank you everybody. Tommy, what are your final thoughts?
Final thoughts. I'm so glad the race is set up beautifully for the 3 a.m. start, because I will be wide awake, hopefully, based on the hype. Because qualifying, genuinely, my heart was like racing. It was so good to watch, and I've missed F1 massively. So big hype going into tomorrow.
Thank you everybody. I'm going to now go weep in a corner. And we will see you tomorrow. We'll be live on Twitch and YouTube if you want to come and watch along the race with us. It's going to be a disastrously early start, but just think of what the China Sprint's going to be at 2:30 a.m. So we'll look forward to that. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you very soon. Lots of love. Take care. Bye.
Bye.